healing!
Plasma cannons to full power!
Shields are doing a major fade!
We're going down.
Yes, the planet has Energon.
Too much Energon. Continued exposure to unaltered forms will result in permanent damage.
Create alternatives based on the most powerful local creatures. Too much Energon.
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 Maximize!
Alert. Quantum surge detected. Vector 597.
Oh no! Not that!
Greetings, Maxipals, and welcome to another episode of Too Much Energon. Episode 48 now.
48.
Another Laser Comb production. On Too Much Energon, we talk about Beast Wars shit, and we talk shit about Beast Wars.
That's what we do every week, baby.
Every week, and today, listeners, you get the privilege of listening to us talk about Beast Wars shit in comic form, but probably mostly talk shit about Beast Wars comic.
And when we say comic, we don't mean in a comedic sense. No. We don't have Megatron up on stage delivering his stand-up comedy routine.
I'd like that.
I'd love to see Scorponok on stage trying to do stand-up.
Specifically Scorponok.
Yeah. I am one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
I'm your other host, NeoCal.
Yeah, and so this kind of got started because a couple of weeks ago, we were taken to task. I think I touched on this a little bit last week, but we were taken to task by a user on YouTube named, I think, Artist Touch Productions.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, something like that. So we had on a recent episode been kind of shit talking the 2021 IDW Beast Wars comic, and they were basically like, so is it just the art you don't like? Because if so, that's really unfair because issue 5 is really good. And I'm like, okay, we'll get caught up and read as much of it as we can. And like, I was like, hey, let's just devote an entire episode to it because, why not? We're kind of in a like limbo stage of the podcast right now. Still not announcing what our plans are yet, but that's coming soon. But yeah, so this week on Too Much Energon, if you're listening to this show and you like Beast Wars, you probably, maybe know that back in February, IDW launched a new Beast Wars comic. It's currently up to issue 5 at the time of recording. I've read all 5 issues. Cal's only read the first 3, but I've read all 5 that are currently available. And when we were, I should preface by saying, like, when we were a few weeks back shit talking the 2021 Beast Wars comic book, both of us had only read issue 1 at that point, and we were going based solely on that. So I'm like, you know what, let's give it a fair shake. And that's what we're going to be talking about on this week's Too Much Energon. So, Cal, why don't we get started on issue 1?
So, issue 1, written by Eric Burnham and art by Josh Burkham or Bircham? Probably new. Bircham. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right away, you get a little. It goes a little bit before Beast Wars.
Yeah.
So you learn that Megatron. We know on the show that he took Megatron's namesake, G1 Megatron's namesake. Right away, it's revealed that Beast Wars Megatron's name is Galavar.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. He's talking to
I
the
don't care.
yeah, he's talking to the Tripredacus Council, who we saw. I think it was in season 2 of Beast Wars, and he tells them his plan to steal the golden disc, and they're like, or he tells them that he wants the golden disc, and they're like, oh, they won't just give it to you. And he's like, I don't intend to ask, no. And they're like, what's your plan? And he tells them his plan to like steal it and like disable all of the maximal ships transwarp drives so no one can follow them. And they're like, brilliant but foolish, we don't approve. And he's like, I wasn't asking your permission either, no.
Also,
and
call me
indeed,
Megatron now. Fuck you.
yeah. And indeed, that's the operation's already underway. So we're getting a little bit of backstory prior to what we got in the beginning of the Beast Wars TV show.
And you can tell it's set during a time of like peace because Galavar and his men, they split up to do two things. There's a team that attacks like a science museum, a science facility,
Yeah.
and steals the golden disc. Simultaneously, the other people, they steal a transwarp capable warship.
Yeah.
And then take out all the other transwarp capable ships in the shipyard.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene where they're taking the disc, and all the Maximals that are defending the museum are kind of just running. They're not fighting. Pterosaur wants to stab and murder one of the guards, and Dinobot stops him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, this isn't honorable. Just knock them out and go. So right away, we get a little like taste of honorable Dinobot and shitlord Pterosaur.
He has his honor.
And Scorponok just is like, what are you two doing? Fuck off. We have a mission to do. And he just like shoots the guy and they move on. I like that there's a little pun in here. It's like, no, there's a big shipyard, right? And it's like, no incidents in 14,207 cycles. And who is it? Is it Waspinator or it's Tarantulas? Tarantulas shoots the number and it just becomes no incidents in 0 cycles because he shoots a hole in the number.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in space, we have the Axelon flying around. I fucking hate the design of the Axelon in this comic.
I like the design of it. If this was standalone and had nothing to do with the Beast Wars, I think the ship design is okay. But it doesn't look like the Axelon from
It looks
from
like
the
a
show.
fly.
I mean,
It looks like a flying cock and balls. Look at the page right after. What is it? Right after the Tripredacus Council, Megatron's interaction with the Tripredacus Council.
I'm there. When the Morpheus and Neo scene, clear your mind, right?
Yeah, the Axelon kind of looks like a dick and balls in space.
Everything looks, all spaceships look like a dick.
Yeah. So Optimus Primal and Rhinox are sparring, and with
stabs.
We find out that this is like Optimus's new command, and he's like bitching about how there's no action going on, and this is a boring mission, just transporting stasis pods. And I'm like, this doesn't sound like Optimus. Not my Optimus, you know?
Hashtag not my Optimus.
Hashtag not my Optimus. Which I'll get into is like one of my bigger problems with this comic book in general is that the characterizations are quite off from what they were in the
Jarringly
show.
so.
Jarringly so. And I'm
Yeah.
not yeah, and I'm not like so beholden, and we've talked about this a lot before. I'm not so beholden to the source material that I'm like, oh, it has to be exactly the same. And indeed, the comic book actually deviates from the plot of the show quite a bit, especially once you get into issues like 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
It's the characters. Like, it's the characterizations. Like, that's what bugs me.
It wouldn't be that bad, but it almost feels like they're opposite to how they were on the show.
Yeah.
Optimus Primal on the Beast Wars TV show, he's not quick to act, right? He wants to know the facts first, but he
Yeah.
is willing to act when he needs to. Okay, we haven't heard back from this person. Send a scout party to go blah blah blah. Rhinox, you stay here and cover the things. I'm going to go and fly.
One of
Yeah.
my comrades is out there, and every second counts. Actual line from an episode that Optimus
Actual
Primal
line.
said.
Actually, the opposite of something that happens eventually
Yeah.
in these comics we're covering.
Yeah,
Literally
it's weird.
the opposite.
Yeah, literally. It's weird. Like Optimus Primal in this comic book, like he's brash and like boastful and seems kind of full of himself.
Yeah.
It's strange. But then when a character like straight up goes missing, he's very nonchalant about it and is like, "Yeah, they're fine."
And Cheetor like politely asks to go look for them, and then when told no, he just goes, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
How many times does Cheetor just fuck off when he's told not to? At least 5.
Yeah, and in the show, like Cheetor being the brash and impulsive character in this comic, like seems kind of reserved and like more cautious and chill. Like it's like they swapped out like the personalities for Cheetor and Optimus Primal. It's so strange.
A little, yeah. It's very. I was expecting him to go look for Nyx when that part comes up himself, regardless of orders.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and this comic has a new character named Nyx, who is based on the original Bat Optimus Primal figure, which for the audio listeners, I'm holding up my sealed Beast Wars Bat Optimus Primal and Alligator Megatron 2-pack from 1996.
He's got Optimus Primal and Megatron.
Yep.
A bat and an alligator, folks.
Yeah. And so the character of Nyx is based on this action figure. And
she's a bat.
Yeah, she's a bat.
And the Predacons have a new member too. Scold?
Scold.
Scold.
And Scold based on the Beast Wars toy Snapper, which I don't have currently, but I had as a child. It was one of my favorites.
That's a like an armored snapping turtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, so why not just make that character Snapper then? Like if you're literally just basing it off of the design of the Snapper toy, just make it Snapper.
There's a character named Cheetor, Rat Trap, and Dinobot. You can be tongue in cheek and name a snapping turtle Snapper. We're okay with that.
Well, and indeed, like it's weird in this comic too. Like before they even crash on planet Energon, like there's a scene on the bridge where they're like controlling the Axelon, and like Optimus straight up like refers to Cheetor as Cheetor and Rhinox as Rhinox and Rat Trap as Rat Trap. And I'm like, okay, so
That's the
these were
joke.
we've joked about this before, but like, okay, so these were their names before they even like took on these alt forms. Boy, it's a good thing that Cheetor ended up becoming a cheetah in his as his alt form. Like,
Yeah, Sentinel or their whatever program that went out and grabbed their forms. Thank God it kept them close to their names, right?
right?
Like we months and months and months ago, like we covered, man, maybe even like the first episode of Too Much Energon. We discussed like, hey, isn't it nice that Cheetor got a cheetah as his animal form?
Wouldn't it be
So
funny if the
indeed-
guy named Rhinox became a rat?
And Rat Trap was like a dog. And
yeah, so
that was their name, folks.
the Axelon locks onto the dark side. The Axelon in this comic book is actually a transwarp capable ship, whereas I kind of got the impression in the show that
It followed them through the warp gate.
Yeah, their transwarp, the Predacon ship's transwarp wormhole.
Primal says in the comic, this is one of the fastest transwarp ships in the Maximal like arsenal, blah blah blah. We can like follow anyone. And I'm like, why is a science vessel one of the fastest ships?
Well, yeah, and like Nyx in this comic like talks up like how great the Axelon is, but I always got the impression in the original cartoon that the Axelon wasn't shit. Like that it ain't shit.
It
was just a like boring like
of transwarp. Yeah.
Yeah. Barely any weaponry, like
Indeed, Cheetor is like, all the weapons we have are for defense. We're not really an offense capable like warship. And Primal is like, I find that the best defense is an good offense, Cheetor. And I'm like, that's not what Cheetor. Fuck off, Primal.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Like Primal in this is like brash and makes dangerous decisions, and Cheetor is the one being like, whoa, 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 guys, and he's like making informed judgments, and I'm like, what the what is happening?
Well, yeah, like I say, like I was saying, it's like they swapped their characters around.
Bizarre.
Yeah, so they follow them through, and
they shoot each other.
They shoot each other.
Yeah.
They crash on planet Energon. They eject the stasis pods. It basically, like in broad strokes, goes down pretty much the same as it does in the cartoon. But then something different happens. So
they eject the stasis pods, like you said, and we do get a little panel. One of them is much bigger and has a big yellow X on it.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, on the page before.
Oh, there it is.
Shows their. Do you see it?
Yeah, I see
X
it.
gonna give it to you. So you know what we have to look forward to.
Transmetals. Yes.
Yeah. Protoformax, folks.
Yeah, so when they crash, they're all knocked into stasis lock, and the computers of their respective ships are like, too much Energon. To themselves, apparently.
And yeah, so I always picture the Dark Side's AI as having that female sultry voice, and the Axelon's voice having that like male Sentinel voice.
Yeah.
So when I was reading this, like alert, toxic levels of Energon radiation, like I heard those two voices in my head. But like you said, it's different. It's kind of like what happened in G1, how when the ship crashed, everyone was in stasis. That's what happened to them here. Both sides.
Yeah, and Teletran 1 went out on autopilot, like looking for alt modes for them. And indeed, that's what happens here.
So I kind of like that callback to, like, they don't have a choice. They're just given these forms.
Yeah.
So kudos for Sentinel actually giving the cheetah to Cheetor. Would have been awkward if there wasn't a rhinoceros around for Rhinox, huh?
Right.
Like if he was a hippopotamus named Rhinox.
And yeah, that's pretty much the end of issue 1.
Yep. Yeah, and they comment, they go, huh? Why did the computer do this to us? And the computer's like, oh, I needed to give you techno-organic flesh to shield you from the Energon. And they're like, oh, weird.
Unfortunately, no one at any point in these first 5 issues utters the phrase "too much Energon."
Not even the computers?
Not even the computers.
I was looking, but no, they just said toxic levels of Energon radiation.
Yeah.
Damn. What you gonna do? Look how handsome Pterosaur in my
A really good
cover,
rendition of Pterosaur's face.
right?
Yeah. Whoever did that art is actually like, it's good. It's better than
The cover art?
better than the interior art. Fucking hate
And
the
after
interior art in this comic.
and after we cover the generic story of these the comics, I'm gonna ask Christopher Siege, and I'll of course chime in too, a few generic questions: story, art, writing,
Yeah.
character, that kind of thing. But we'll get into that once we're done summarizing these.
In issue 2 opens with Rhinox commenting that there's something weird about the planet that they're on. He says it's a patchwork world. Biomes that shouldn't coexist side by side do. And there are mountains floating in the sky.
So right away they notice the floating mountains.
And
Weird.
Rattrap's
It's like Minecraft.
I know, it's like Tigatron hanging out in his Minecraft biome.
There's a really funny joke there somewhere, I'm sure.
Somewhere. We'll spend 10 minutes explaining it, and that'll make it even funnier.
Well, you remember.
Hey, even after like we're finished recording these, I do all the editing, so I get to hear us say our shit multiple times over. And so Rattrap's chilling out in beast mode, and then something very bizarre to me happens. Rhinox flips the fuck out and is like, "Rattrap, what do you think you're doing over there?" And smacks the apple, or I think it's an apple. I don't know. Rattrap's eating something, some sort of like circular thing.
Some sort of ancient fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, Rhinox gets pissed off and smacks it out of Rattrap's hand and is like, "We don't consume organics, we consume Energon, damn it. Grab me a fucking beer."
Yeah. And he's like, the Energon here is too potent, pal. You said it yourself. Sure, we can process it into something edible, but that takes forever, and I'm not going to run on low power while I wait. And he tells Rhinox that their new bodies are actually capable of processing organic food.
Yeah.
And so that it's fine.
Rhinox, the
Isn't that weird?
scientist.
The scientist who should know that it's fine for them to eat organic fruit.
And he seemed so weirdly offended by the fact that Rattrap was eating fruit.
Why?
I don't know. It's so weird to me.
If it was bad for him, if he was like, "Oh, your body can't digest that," and he smacked it out, that feels a little bit more like Rhinox. But it's like a principles thing. He's like, "We don't consume organics. We consume Energon," and he fucking smacks it out of his hand. Like it's a matter of principles, right?
Yeah,
like a vegetarian, like smacking their fucking like corn dog out of their friend's hand.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I'm like, why?
So bizarre to me. And then we get to see the Vok. You wanna off air? You had things to say about this, so you wanna
Yeah,
take it
so
away?
we get to see the Vok right away, and they are teleporting on both the Axelon and the dark side. And they're commenting here and there. And it's revealed that they are invisible, right?
Mhm.
Mostly. We'll get into some shenanigans. They're mostly invisible, and they can read someone's mind when they get close to them.
Mhm.
And they read Rhinox's mind. Their names are Tonrar and Lavar. I don't fucking care. They're the Vok. Um, this one's memories tell me that there are others. So they read Rhinox and they go, "Ooh, there's another faction somewhere." Right? And so they teleport, who fucking cares or knows? They teleport to the dark side and they read them and they go, "Ooh, these ones have different tribal markings." And they're talking about them like they're inferior species, right? Like
I
they're
mean,
observing ants almost. And
yeah. I mean, to be fair,
yeah, yeah.
let's
And
just
then they
disregard the fate of the Vok in the Beast Wars cartoon for a second and continue
let's,
to assume that they are like supreme
let's
beings.
presume they're as cool as we wanted them to be in season 1 of
Yeah.
Beast Wars, right? Which and I'm on board with the Vok in the comics so far.
So far, yeah.
And two of them are bickering and they say we need to destroy all of these beings and everything they've come in contact with because they're ruining our experiments on this planet.
Yeah.
Another one says our experiments aren't worth anything if they don't withstand external randomness, external what is the word? Um Potential learn about them. Oh, we can learn about them. If it can withstand outside influence, is the data this planet gathers even worth it? Of any
It's a fair
worth?
it's a fair point.
Yeah, and I'm kind of. It depends on the experiments, but both have a good point. And then they turn to their
Yeah, like some experiments you want a controlled environment.
yeah,
So, yeah, I
and
get it.
they're like, well, what? So Mama Vok is like, I don't wanna, and Daddy Vok is like, oh, we should let them stay. And they're like, what about you, Grandpa Vok? And Grandpa Vok's like, now you kids. And they're like, who do you agree with? And there's a pun in here, and I kind of hate it and love it at the same time. One of the
Okay.
Grandpa Vok says, I agree that blah blah blah. We should probably not interfere with long-running experiments, but also that the most accurate results rarely occur in a vacuum, except possibly for those experiments held in space. Alrighty then, we are very smart. God. I can't tell if I love or hate that joke.
10 out of
Yes,
10 writing.
space vacuum.
Oh,
Anyways, he's
Christ.
like, okay, how about this? We let them stay, but if they fuck shit up, then we can just eradicate them and we'll wipe the whole planet and then start over, okay? Because
Yeah,
if they're immortal beings, they don't give a shit if it takes another 1,000,000,000, 10,000,000 years, right?
yeah. They got
They don't give a
nothing but
fuck.
time.
And so they're like, agreed, and they're like, okay. Yeah. So these guys and on both sides of the ship, um, two individuals notice something weird. Rat Trap is like, hey, did you guys feel that weird feeling? And he had a feeling like someone was watching them.
I hate that.
And you do?
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. And indeed, like the same thing goes down at the Predacon base when the Vok are observing them.
Pterosaur.
Yeah,
Pterosaur's
Pterosaur.
like, hey, did you see that? There was a flashing light, and never mind. I'm going out. I'm getting stir crazy. So both Pterosaur and Rat Trap kind of noticed they were being watched by someone, the
Yeah,
Vok.
I don't like it.
Yeah. And then something perplexing as fuck happens.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. Right? So Megatron's like, I don't know, stroking his like dinosaur head hand, which he doesn't have in this. Does? Does. And
I feel like he does sometimes and sometimes doesn't in this comic.
yeah, well, and he's like he's like, oh, blast it all, and Scorponok goes in to visit Megatron, and he's like, still no luck, Megatron? Maybe you should let me try. And then he says, I love this. He's like, I'm one of the top code breakers Iacon ever produced. In fact, it was my work that put down the Wolf J Rebellion on really a. And then Megatron grabs him by the neck and like lifts him up. And he's like, Scorponok, I said I was not to be disturbed while I'm working with my disc. And he's like, I just wanted to help. You said you were going to attack the Maximals, but you've only focused on studying the desk. We all
Shut
grow
up.
tired of waiting, Megatron. And he's like, oh, do you? And he throws Scorponok across the room and he slams against the wall. So just to summarize, folks, Scorponok grows antsy and him and the others want to attack the Maximals, right?
Yeah.
But Megatron doesn't want to attack, and he wants to just study the disc on his own. This is another example of reverse Bizarro world. There has not been a single time in the entirety of Beast Wars where Megatron hasn't jumped at the opportunity sometimes multiple times an episode, like 2 or 3 times, to
The
go and
maximal
attack the
base, and the shield is down. Oh, yes.
always. So not only is Scorponok questioning Megatron, and he's very loyal on the TV show, he's questioning Megatron in this and actually talking back to him.
Yeah.
And Megatron's reserved and doesn't want to attack yet until he gets the ship's defenses up and running.
Only
We
the
are-
Maximals can stop us now. Find them. And if you find them, destroy them. Cheers. Actual line from Beast Wars Part 1, delivered by Megatron.
But opposite here. He wants to hang back, fix his ship, get his defenses running, and study the disc. And learn more before he makes a move. And I'm like, who are you, man?
So look at the panel where Megatron says, good, now leave me. I have work to do.
Yep. And he's picking Scorponok up by the tail thing.
The fucking artwork in this book, man. Like, holy shit, does that look awful. Look at Scorponok's goddamn tail. Like, that's supposed to be his scorpion tail. Like, just, ugh. I'm going on record.
Scorpion tail.
I'm going on record. Like, I fucking hate the art in this book. Like, I hate it so much.
I knew when we first touched on these comics, we had a guest on the show, Candace Santora.
Yeah, shout out to her.
And yeah, big shout out to her. We need to get her back ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
And she loves Beast Wars.
Yeah.
I got the impression,
undoubtedly more than either me or Cal combined.
Without question, she knows more and she loves it more.
Yeah.
It was painful for her to admit that she did not like how things looked. And indeed, I'm not sure if we've, and for video people on YouTube, it's very anime-esque. My background thing is having a meltdown, so watch Christopher's.
Yeah,
it's very
I got
anime-esque.
you.
It's very Teen Titans. Like, oh, that's a very good shot that Christopher's holding up. It's very Teen Titans. It's very Western anime look.
Yeah.
And their designs are they've got a lot of prongs and antennas. It's very Gundam-like Japanese influenced.
There was a Transformers cartoon that was on in 2009, I think, called Transformers Animated. This style kind of reminds me of that.
And so I think it's cool. It's unique. but they're all skinny and they all have 1,000 antenna. The next Christopher on the next page, I count 6 antenna things coming off of Primal, like his head, shoulder area.
Yep.
I
And,
do like how Nyx looks. Yeah, Christopher doesn't like the art, folks.
Nope, not at all.
But that we will get to that. So what's going on here? We get.
I think I heard in a forum that the artist is leaving this book after issue 6, and I'm like, thank fucking Christ.
Yeah, I've read a few comics where there's a certain run, the artwork changes style, but the writers stay the same. And then like another 10 issues or so go by, and then a different artist and different artists.
That's just comics. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it, but I completely understand anybody that hates it. Anyways, Nyx is cool, I think, in this scene. She gets really excited. She wants to go fly around, but there's a ton of repairs to do. And again, not very Primal-like. Maybe you disagree. He's like, fuck it. Go fly around by yourself.
Yeah, not very Primal-like at all.
You know, the ship will repair itself. We got Cheetor. You go fly. Take your time, and if you go missing at night, we won't even look for you.
Speaking of Cheetor, if you recall in the show in Beast Wars Part 1, Cheetor does actually just like fuck off, and Optimus is like, no, wait, Cheetor, you can't. And they go after him.
Would you say what, 30 or 60 seconds into getting their beast modes?
Yeah.
He fucks off, like almost right away. And he yells, Cheetor, get back to base. Completely doesn't listen.
Yeah. And in this comic, Optimus is straight up telling Nyx, hey, it's fine, you know, whatever. Like, we're on this planet. We're on this planet that we know nothing about. We have a dangerous enemy lurking about that we don't know if they survived the crash or not. Like, we don't know what kind of life exists on this planet. We don't know what the elements are like. But hey, just, you know.
And you know what? No, don't go with someone else. I insist. Go on your own.
Yeah.
I can't, man. I'm like, what? Is it just me, or is he kind of a shit captain so far?
He is, yeah. He's terrible.
So we get some creepy shit with Tarantulas arguing with Dinobot, and he's like, hey, tell me about this planet.
Yeah, this scene I actually liked. Like Dinobot was trying to pull rank on Tarantulas, and Tarantulas was basically like, rank? What rank? Like, no, like there's Megatron, but like there's no chain of command beyond that. Like, you don't rule me, motherfucker.
He's like, we're all rogue agents.
Yeah.
Essentially like terrorists. Like we're not in the military.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, so I'm busy. And when I say I'm busy, why don't you busy yourself with Pterosaur's terminal and leave me alone? And I'm like, shit. They don't like each other.
Speaking of Pterosaur, when Nyx is out flying and exploring, Pterosaur attacks and kidnaps her and brings her to Megatron.
Yeah, shoots her down and brings her back to Megatron. 1,000 times more useful than he was on the cartoon.
And that's issue 2.
That's issue 2.
Issue 2. This is the cover that I have.
Oh, you got a variant. That's rad. That is amazing.
I'll hold both issues 1 and 2 up for the people watching this on video.
Those are rad. Wow.
I know, it's way better than the interior art.
I'm actually borrowing these. They're the one I have they're both Christopher's.
You can just have them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
I was going to give all 3 back to you with the variant episode 1 because I got it like minutes before you did, right?
No, it's all good. You can keep them.
Okay. The artwork on the front is beautiful for all of them.
Issue 3. Nyx is being tortured at the dark side by Tarantulas, and Megatron is like trying to get information about the Maximals from her, and she's not giving in. So Tarantulas is being his creepy Tarantula self.
Yeah.
He's
He's just
basically
perverse.
being Revolver Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 1, torturing Snake in this scene.
There it is, folks. We did it. Metal Gear
And
but it
Nyx is busy
It
like
is.
trying to mash the circle button as hard as she can to like resist the torture.
You take your knuckles and you wrap them across the buttons on your PlayStation controller till the skin starts coming off, and you pass it to your buddy, and he does the.
No, you know what you
same.
do? You use a lighter.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Okay,
what I
can
used to
see
do
that.
back when I was a teenager.
Left and right until yeah.
Yep.
Now you don't wreck your. That way you check yourself before you wreck yourself. So it's nighttime, and the only person that seems to care that Nyx isn't back is Cheetor, the responsible one on the
yeah, in this comic book.
in the comic. I don't get it's any maybe he does like her but I'm not getting that. I'm getting genuinely like, hey,
I'm worried about my comrade, you know. This person's
yeah,
been gone.
is she back yet? Is she back yet?
And Optimus is just like, it's fine. And Cheetor's like, no, we should go look for her. And Optimus is like, nah, it's probably okay. Basically, Optimus is like, well, we can't leave the base unattended, and I'm sure she's fine, so we're not going to waste our time going to look for her.
And we wouldn't be able to find her at night anyway. So tell you what, first thing in the morning during daylight hours, we'll go and like look for her.
Yeah.
And I guess he listens. Rat Trap gives him like a hard time. I'm confused about that exchange on the bottom of that page. He's like, "Oh, in the meantime, a little elbow grease will take your mind off of things." And he's like, "I've been repairing the ship all day. My elbows are
My
fully greased."
my elbows are fully greased.
Where's the
I think
Cheetor, like the action, his action figure like catchphrases? Doesn't have those like he doesn't say ultra gear or anything
yeah.
in this.
Giga Bummer.
No Giga Bummer.
No Giga Bummers. And so Optimus is like talking to Rhinox, who's apparently his sage in this comic, I guess. And is like
I
asking him
get the
for advice.
impression that he's known Rhinox, whereas he doesn't really know anyone else. Or Rhinox is older,
Yeah.
and he's kind of like, yeah, he's going to him for advice. He's like, did I make the right call? And Rhinox has this long-winded thing is like, oh, we don't know what dangers there are environmentally, and we don't know about the life forms on the planet, like if they're dangerous.
Which is why Optimus shouldn't have sent Nyx off to begin with.
At least not alone.
He's not alone, yeah.
And he's like, and we don't really know if how many Predacons survived, and if they're flight capable too. So he's like, if you're honestly interested in what I think has what happened, he doesn't want to tell him Primal that he's wrong. He's in a nice way, he's telling him that he was wrong.
Yeah.
That's how my takeaway from it. And then indeed we cut to a scene with Megatron talking shit to Nyx and Tarantulas stroking himself as he tortures her.
Yep. And Dinobot steps in because he ain't down with this.
Yeah, he's like, this fuck this is too much. And Megatron gets all insubordination and grabs him by the neck and slams him against the wall.
understand the
um,
logic behind your little outburst, and I am as kind and generous a leader. I'm willing to forgive you for your presumptuousness.
presumptuousness.
Don't let it happen again. No. Throws him to the ground. Later,
Yeah.
Nyx.
But what? So this is the thing. They don't get any information from her, but
Yeah.
Tarantula says, "Wait a second. The Maximal hasn't said shit. So that means she's trying
Right.
really, really hard to not tell us any information, which means that there must have been others that survived the crash, and she's trying to keep them safe. So
Yeah.
we do know that there's a bunch that survived. And Megatron's like, excellent observation. As a reward, you get to have her. Do what you will. Any orifice you please. I don't even need to go have a turn first. And I'm like, tell Megatron had some honor, but he's enabling. He's enabling
I mean,
Tarantulas, and I
well,
don't like it.
well, in the fucking terrible episode of season 3 of Beast Wars, where like Megatron builds his death ray, he straight up gives the Neanderthal child to Tarantulas to do with as he please. So
That's true.
So this is actually kind of on brand for Megatron. I think Megatron is written fairly accurately in this in this
Yeah.
comic compared to the show.
It was easy for me to picture him with his voice.
Yeah.
He felt the same. Yeah. Dinobot feels the same. Cooler,
Mostly, yeah. I
Later.
have things to say about that later.
Oh,
but-
okay. Yeah. So we cut to a scene outside at night. And Nyx is saying, "Oh, I had the worst dream." And Megatron's like, "I have some bad news, Maximal. That was no dream." And so, no. Nyx tries to transform into beast mode. They haven't called it beast mode yet. I don't like that. She can't transform. And her AI says, warning, Energon poisoning underway. Initiate alt mode immediately. And she's frustrated because she can't. Tarantulas reveals that he has this floating orb device that's kind of like the opposite of the one that we saw in the animated show.
Yeah, the episode, the Probe. I think it was episode 10.
10-ish. It was fairly early.
Yeah.
And that one, when it shoots a Maximal, they're stuck in beast mode. In this, when it shoots the Maximal Nyx, she's stuck in her robot form.
Mm-hmm.
And so can't even enter stasis lock.
I mean,
essentially, she'll get Energon radiation poisoning and die.
Yeah, there's like either way, like there's a practical application for a device like this.
Yeah.
One thing I do appreciate is that the comic, unlike the show, addresses why this thing does not get used ever again.
Because it gets blown
blown up by Dinobot. Dinobot
and
fucking
indeed,
eye lasers it.
By Dinobot. The first use of eye lasers. The first use of eye lasers is Dinobot eye lasering this fucking probe, and Tarantulas says to us, "No, that was a prototype. I don't have the materials to make another."
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's why we'll never see it again. Unlike the episode, the show that we reviewed, where we're like, so we're gonna see this every episode from now on, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now, so the reason
I think the name of it in the show was the transformation lock lens.
I believe you. You can say anything, and I can't remember.
That was a long time ago now.
Yeah, that hovered around on its own. And the reason Dinobot eye lasers it is because she can't transform and she's scared, and Nyx is like, "Fuck it, I guess I'm."
Yeah.
guess I'll just run as far away as I can. And
She's
they
kind
all
of
start
helpless,
shooting.
but she's not giving up. Is what
No,
Dinobot
man, like,
like
holy
is
shit!
what
And this is after her mash circle like torture scene, and she
yeah
has the energy and stuff to wherewithal to run. Good for
yeah
her. But all of them, like a western where you're shooting at somebody's feet, they're all the Predacons are like shooting at her feet and like taking pot shots at her and hitting her every now and then with like their laser guns. And Pterosaur is like, "Hey, buddy, you should get in on this before she's dead." And that's when he's like, "I think I shall." And he blows the lens up. Tarantulas freaks out. He's like, "You destroyed my one of a kind baby. You will pay for this." And he's like, "I doubt that." And he kicks Tarantulas in the face. And indeed, long story short, it's a really satisfying scene where Dinobot kicks the shit out of all the other Predacons, all of them. But he does something weird, and I'm not sure why.
okay
Maybe Gold is supposed to be the youngest of them, but
yeah
he's
yeah
talking to Scold throughout the fight, trying to say, "Hey, you're young, but when you're older and you actually have principles, you'll realize that, like, there." What does he say? That achieve victory is to mean, if it means anything, it needs to be achieved as honestly to yourself as possible.
It's not too late for you, Scold. You can still be better than they are. A Predacon worthy of respect. And I'm like,
What?
e-
Is this your
it,
protege? Like, why Scold?
yeah, it's not explained at all. It's kind of out of nowhere. Like we've been
It
given
is.
we've been given no indication that they have any kind of relationship at all.
My headcanon is that she's his apprentice. He's a samurai and she's his squire. I let's go with that. But yeah, it's just like, why is he specifically trying to warn her and like get her on his side? And indeed, she's like, I'm never gonna come over to your side. And he says something weird. He's like, Megatron's shit talking him, and he's like, "You don't have the strength to blah blah blah." And Dinobot's like, "If strength was all that was required of a leader, Gold would be in charge." And again, I'm like,
Where is this coming from?
is she the strongest? She's not the biggest. Where?
Does
Why is
he
he praising her so much?
does he think she has like the greatest strength of character?
Strength, but she
Like,
said one
but
line
why?
before this,
Yeah, yeah.
and Dinobot was like, "Speak up." So maybe she was like a protege. I
I
don't know. It
I don't
was
know.
weird. She would be in charge because she's the strongest, and I'm like, is she? I don't. And then he says, Megatron, your plans are fucking stupid. You don't inspire your your followers. And I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah.
I, I agree. And he picks Scold up because she's a snapping turtle, and like a discus, like Captain America throwing his fucking shield, he whips he whips Scold after just trying to convince her to join him. I'm so confused.
I'm
He whips her.
disappointed. Yeah, and he like throws her like Cap's shield like into Megatron, which then knocks like the rest of the Predacons back into the dark side, and then the dark side's doors shut because apparently
Well,
Dinobot
is the
initiated some sort
security officer.
yeah, some sort of
He's
like
like
security
security
lockdown.
protocol Omicron D7, and everything locks down, and all the
Yeah.
Predacons are locked inside. Yeah,
I'm very disappointed that there is no cross-country missile.
I he should have lost, but stuck to his guns. And Dinobot losing in Beast Wars Part 1
Part 1, yeah.
shows that even when he's faced with overwhelming odds, he sticks to his principles. He lost that fight because Megatron didn't fight him one on one.
Mhm.
In this, he kicks all of their asses
Yeah.
and then pulls an elite gamer hacker move and locks them in on their own ship.
Yeah.
It's very cool, but sometimes you need to eat humble pie and lose so that a win later feels more gratifying. Huh.
Yeah. And this, like, I have things to say about Dinobot in this comic, like, later on, which I'll get into, but yeah.
But
I'm
anyways,
sad that there's
they're
no cross-country missile.
they're all angry, and Scorponok is like, uh no, it'll take some time till we can reprogram the computer because he was the security, blah blah blah. And Megatron's just chilling, sitting in the dark, and he's like, I'm almost impressed with Dinobot's treachery. His execution was flawless. But I'll kill him next time I see him. Mark my words. And that's number 3, folks. I think maybe that's we should wrap up after the first 3. What do you think?
Well,
And then maybe cover.
I did read 4 and 5, so I was gonna kinda speak of them in broad strokes for a couple of minutes, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, we can do that. Go for it.
Um,
What happens in 4?
so basically in 4, Nyx is wandering through the woods. She gets attacked by some weird, like, werebear type creature.
Yeah, because
Uh,
she get oh, she's not with Dinobot.
Dinobot finds her, and in a very
Okay.
weird scene, like, he decides that he's going to take her back to her base because she needs a CR chamber because she's about to die.
Yeah.
And
She still can't transform though, right? Even with that thing
right,
destroyed?
right. So
Uh,
he says, "Computer, request detailed status of Maximal." And her computer responds with, "You are not authorized to access detailed status." And he's like,
okay.
"Huh, fine. Computer, I suspect Maximal requires attention. Medical attention. Confirm?" Confirmed. Um,
Okay.
and he's like, "Has a distress signal been sent out?" Negative. Energon radiation is interfering with communications range. Computer, can you tell me where the Maximal ship is? And this is the weird part. Negative. Can you access internal movement logs and retrace a path back to the ship? Processing request. Affirmative. Good. Now direct me. That's basically the same fucking thing.
That's the same fucking thing, except way more long-winded.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Computer, can you help me?" And it's like, "No, you're a Predacon." And he's like, "Okay." So he just asks simpler questions to get the same information from it.
Yeah. Can you tell me exactly where the base is? No. Well, can you give me step-by-step instructions how to get there? Yes. It's so fucking dumb. Uh
Wow, that is a lot of wasted page space. It's like, "Hey, Alexa, can you give me instructions? Sorry, can you give me, like can you tell me how to get to, like, work from, like, my current location?" Negative. Okay, well, can you give me step by step, like, Google Maps instructions? Okay.
yeah.
That's the same.
I'm gonna that is straight up that is dumb writing.
That's bad writing,
Yeah.
and it doesn't add anything.
No.
It's just wasted page space. Oh. Oh,
Uh
well.
so Optimus like does some science bullshit, like repurposes a dish to like find Nyx's like transponder signal or something, and
So,
then
Primal does some Rhinox bullshit.
Primal does some Rhinox bullshit right after Rat Trap is all like, man, this Optimus guy doesn't really do anything. And Optimus is like, well, with a straight up like smug like smirk on his face. Well, actually, I did all this. Yeah, it's
Weird.
it's weird, yeah. Tarantulas figures out how to get them out of how to get the Predacons out of the dark side by overriding security bullshit, and the Maximals see Dinobot bringing Nyx back to base. So, like, the shit that Optimus was boasting about building like this dish to like find her ended up being completely useless anyway.
So why is it on the? So Christopher and I, brief aside, Christopher and I would talk about airtime. You have
Yeah.
22 goddamn minutes to show us our cartoon about toys,
And in
right?
this case, 22 goddamn pages.
And in this case, you have limited number of pages.
No, it's literally 22. That's standard comic
I
book
don't.
length.
Oh, the 22 pages, 22 minutes.
Yeah.
What does him building that dish and Rat Trap scrutinizing him add to the story of the comic?
Nothing. Nothing
What
at all.
does Dinobot arguing with the Nyx's computer? Wasted page space. Well, in that regard, it's similar to Beast Wars, I suppose.
Particularly season 3. Cheers. So the Maximals like go and greet Dinobot who's carrying Nyx on his back in beast mode, and they're all like, fuck you, Predacon. And Dinobot is like, I brought your soldier back to you to join your Maximals as leader.
Dun,
No, actually he
dun.
does. No, actually he doesn't.
Ah.
He's just like, he extends his hand out to shake Optimus Primal's hand and is like, I formally request to join your group.
Yes, very Dinobot-like.
Very Dinobot-like. To be continued. Issue 5, which I think is actually the
I
best
was speaking
issue.
of Deep Space, but wow, that one flew by. Number
Issue
5 is
5. I think so, yeah. So that what is it? Who were they? Artist Touch Productions on YouTube. They were right. Issue 5 is actually really good.
Well, there we go.
We get a very long scene of Dinobot being in a maximal holding cell on the Axelon, and Optimus is like, I don't believe that you want to join me. What the fuck are you actually up to? And Dinobot's like, no, I actually want to join you. And Nyx comes in and is like, Optimus, fuck off. And Optimus is like, no. And she's like, I want to talk to him alone. Please just give me a minute. And he's like, well, okay. And so Nyx, there's actually a really good, like, I'm kind of like stupefying it, but
You mentioned this. Yeah.
but there's actually a really good back and forth between Dinobot and Nyx here, where she is like genuinely wanting to know why Dinobot saved her, and he goes over the kind of the moral, like the morality behind like what Tarantulas was doing to her, and like his problems with it, and like why he chose to save her. And the Predacons attack the base, and a big battle ensues, blah blah. And Nyx decides to let Dinobot out to join the fight, and to be continued. So
Also, he's just about to engage the fight
yeah.
when the issue ends.
Yep. And
So he was being held in the base.
yeah, because he surrendered to the Maximals and was like, I formally request to join you. And so they, in turn, just threw him in the brig.
Is it a laser grid that only has enough space for you to stand
pretty
in?
much.
Oh, it was the same?
Yeah, pretty much. It's not circular, but like it is like a very small room with like red laser bars.
Okay, cool. Somebody has seen the show.
Presumably once and only once.
So
Yeah, yeah,
that's issues 1 through 5.
yep.
Um, based on what you so before we jump into our rate, because we are gonna rate these,
Yep,
but
on the
as a
too much
collective.
energon scale.
Yeah. Quick art style. We touched upon.
I hate it.
Where's that on the too much energon for you? The art style individually.
No energon.
Oh, you really don't like it.
It is getting. This is only the third time I've busted out the no energon rating, the hidden
I,
secret hidden no energon rating. But
I,
yeah,
I,
no
wow,
energon for the art.
we're on both sides of that one. Once I got used to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, I really like it. They're expressive, and you can do more things with that. It's hmm, hmm. It's a sufficient amount of energon.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know who I was looking at half the time earlier on. It's a sufficient amount of energon. Um,
Did you notice Dinobot's hands?
like
He has hands that look like ours.
monkey paw.
Whereas it
They all do. He didn't have raptor claw.
Yeah, in the show, and indeed, even in the like recent War for Cybertron Kingdom toy, he has like raptor claw hands.
There
But
is, yeah, it's
in the comic, he doesn't. He just has like
good
regular
cat.
old four finger, one thumb hands. I don't like it.
And
It's wrong.
what do you let's throw this in together. What do you think of like the pacing and like not airspace, page space?
Um, I think the pacing moves along fine. There's a lot of like wasted time though. But it's
A little here and there, I've noticed. I'm like, I don't, why is this two-page conversation lending to what's going on? Like, I don't
it
need Sensei Rhinox like
yeah.
giving, yeah.
But it's still brief enough that it doesn't really like drag the issue down most of the time.
I think the ones I read, none. It didn't drag any of the issues down.
Hmm.
Like, I don't give a shit about what the Tripredacus Council says. I care about what Galavar is saying to them briefly, but when it's just those three, I don't care. In the Vok, I was like, I hope they're cooler. I
It's like, yes, okay, writer, you are letting us know that you read the Wikipedia article for Beast Wars season 3. Cool.
and the last thing before we move on to our just overall rating, just the writing and the dialogue.
Um, I think the dialogue in and of itself is fine. It's not great, but it's serviceable. The problem is the characters, other than like say Rat Trap and Dinobot at times and Megatron, the characters don't sound like the characters. Like Rhinox doesn't say
No,
Rhinox bullshit. Cheetor doesn't say Cheetor bullshit. Optimus definitely doesn't say Optimus bullshit.
no.
Scorponok doesn't say Scorponok
Isn't
bullshit.
loyal. Scorponok isn't loyal.
Like,
Uh,
so yeah, like I
it's
think the
hard to not judge it based on the cartoon,
yeah.
right? Like because they're so different.
And the cartoon aside, like taking the dialogue writing on its own merits, it's fine. It doesn't really blow me away at all. I will say I do like Nyx quite a bit as a character so
I like
far.
Nyx.
I think she's
There,
written fairly well.
there are perplexing. She is actually, and she's not necessarily very strong, and she's capable, and she's willing. Rat Trap sounds just like Rat Trap. Rhinox being a hard ass about food on the I I don't
And like,
get
yeah,
it.
like that was really weird. And like, what did that even serve? Like it added nothing to the story at all, and it was just a
The-
weird character moment that kind of betrayed like what we knew about Rhinox as a
about
character.
another thing, the perplexing part where Dinobot is like trying to like urge Scold into seeing how like shitty the Predacons are. I'm like, why particularly Scold? Why not Scorponok or Waspinator? Like, why Scold? Is she supposed to be younger than? Like, it
Yeah.
never established that they had a rapport or anything.
Well, and Scold isn't even really a character at all. Like we know nothing about her. She barely has
No,
any lines in these
I
issues.
can't even really recall what she looks like in her robot form. I one criticism of the art in the robot forms, the Predacons all look a little too much alike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scold and Scorponok and but now the Pterosaur's red and silver. It's easy to tell them apart. But before they landed on planet Energon, um, they definitely looked too similar.
Hmm.
Um, I think it establishes some of the characters like really quickly and pretty early. Like Rat Trap is exactly like Rat Trap. He's scrutinous of bad leadership, as he should be.
Yeah.
Any
Especially in this.
yeah. But okay, but anyways, we're jabbering on about it. Anyone listening, every time we review something, we have the too much energon rating system. It's pretty simple. It's
Yep.
not enough energon, a sufficient amount of energon, and too much energon.
Too much.
And maybe there's an invisible rating system that you may have heard before. If something is like
The fable
abysmally offensive,
the fabled no Energon rating.
the no energon. But that has to be like high code levels of bad. That needs to be
Or
offensively
the
bad.
Vok
Yeah.
Tigerhawk episode of Beast Wars.
Unanimous, no energon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're essentially, that was okay, really good. So, what is the Christopher Siege rating of the first run of the Beast Wars comics?
Like I said, the art is getting no Energon for me. I think the writing overall
That's
pretty mediocre, and I feel like the whoever wrote this show or whoever wrote this comic isn't particularly familiar with the show or the characters. I like the comic more when it starts going its own way instead of just trying to like recreate the plot of Beast Wars. So the writing is getting a low sufficient amount of energon from me.
it does get okay. So
Um, overall,
it's hard. Like
overall, it's God, I
it's hard. So
fucking hate the art so much.
it's overall like your experience. It's hard. It's impossible to do it with to rate it without bias. But if it's standalone and you knew nothing about
Which it
Dinobot,
is, yeah, yeah. Which I've been
right?
trying to
It's
I've been
hard.
trying to take that approach. On its own merits, it's getting a low overall. It's getting a low sufficient amount of energon. I hate the art. The writing's kind of hokey at times, but especially after reading issue 5, I'm really excited to see where this.
Well, that makes me want to continue reading them on my own now that you actually got me caught up with these.
yeah, I think I'm gonna keep reading it, at least for now.
I'll
And
keep checking
I've
it
heard a
out too.
rumor. I think I mentioned earlier. I've heard a rumor that the artist might be changing after the next issue. So
Christopher's clicking his heels.
just like
as
walking on sunshine.
uh, as as for me, the NeoCal rating, um, there are so much perplexing writing. I like the art style, but there's so much perplexing decisions. I'm like, why do I need to see Rat Trap get his food smacked out of his hand by Rhinox? Why
Yep.
do we need to see like people like bickering about like what they should do for like a page or two? It gets a sufficient amount of energon for me. And if the pacing's fine, like it moves along every issue,
Yep.
but just the writing is it's very perplexing to me at times. I've already gone into detail. Who is Scold to Dinobot, and why should we care? Why is he
Yep.
just talking to her? Right? Like, why is Rat Trap getting his food smacked out of his hands like a filthy child caught stealing? Like a
What?
filthy
Why does Google Maps refuse to give Dinobot the Maximal's address, but will then just give them like GPS, give him like GPS directions to the Maximal base
I
instead?
can't give
Like,
you a map, but I can give you map quest directions. Okay. Yeah.
I won't tell you
Why?
the address, but I will give you specific instructions on exactly how to get there. It's like,
So
okay,
that you end up there anyway.
so that you end up there anyway.
Oh, thanks. Now I'm okay with the characters being different, but I need to like the characters more to give it too much energon. And eh,
I dislike Optimus Primal in this comic.
I dislike Primal. I it's were they I feel like they were trying to go for a Kirk thing. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay,
Like a
yeah,
hot-headed,
yeah.
like new captain kind of
Like
thing.
Kirk from the recent, like, well, not even recent at this point. The first one
Or
came out in fucking 2009, but the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies.
yeah, the
Like that
hot-headed
version of Kirk. Yeah.
new captain, right?
Yeah.
Now again, would have been too much energon, except I only like 3 of the characters, like Nyx, Cheetor, because he kept being like, "Guys, can we can we go look for our missing?"
Yeah.
Like he's the only one that cares. Jesus Christ! Don't like Rhinox. Don't like Primal. Rat Trap is Rat Trap, but until he does something Rat Trap-ish and cool, he's middle of the road. Megatron's Megatron-ish, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like Dinobot and Cheetor and Nyx are the only ones that are kind of cool so far.
Yeah.
Sufficient amount of energon from both of us.
All right. That has been episode 48 of Too Much Energon. We will be back next week with episode 49 of Too Much Energon, where we will be talking about Beast Wars Super Special Lifeform Transformers. Lio Convoy in Imminent Danger. It is a
People are like, what?
it is the second part of a 3-part theatrical Beast Wars thing that was released in theaters in Japan in 1998. And we're going to talk about that because why the fuck not? We've had requests to talk about the Japanese Beast Wars shows, and this seems like, if we're just going to do a one-off talking about it, this seems like as good a thing as any to do. And
I am looking forward to it.
I'm
And
really fucking excited. I've watched the first like couple of minutes, and the thing opens with like 2 like groups of Transformers, like Beast Formers, like in space in a music duel with like ukuleles and shit. and they get interrupted by a fucking space pirate ship showing up.
I
And
think
I'm
you
like,
chose a good one. So specifically, what is this called? And you said it's on YouTube, correct?
it is on YouTube, yes. Beast Wars Super Special Lifeform Transformers Part 2 Lio Convoy in Imminent Danger.
So
That's
feel free to join.
so yeah, it's free. It's free to watch on YouTube. It's subtitled. It's probably a fan sub, but who cares? It's gonna be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. We'll be back next week with that. If you want to support the show, wherever you're listening to or watching this, give us a like, subscribe, thumbs up, positive rating, 5-star review, anything. We appreciate it. Any and all positive feedback. If you want to get in touch, send us an email, toomuchenergon@outlook.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/toomuchenergon, or facebook.com/lasercomb, which is kind of the central hub of this and every other Lasercomb podcast that I produce. Patreon. We've recently revamped the Patreon, and we're doing a whole bunch of exclusive content on there. For $5 a month, you get exclusive preamble audio, literally hours of us on this show and the other shows that we do, kind of just shooting the shit, getting ready to record, talking about this, that, or the other thing. For $10 and up, you get that and a new show called Lasercomb Tonight, where we talk about interesting and comedic news stories of the week. It's a lot more fun than it sounds.
And we just it's our spin on it too. Like most of the time it's like dumb, but it's it it was probably one of the Christopher and I just did a laser comb at night segment, and we probably laughed more in that short amount of time, especially near the end there, than we have doing a lot of other stuff. So it's fun. And you can be kept current with the latest news.
Yeah. The latest in dubious news. And for the $25 tier, you get all of that. You also get a free t-shirt. You get the ability to pitch us a show to talk about on a upcoming podcast called Pilot Season, which is also a Patreon exclusive, where we review the first episode of a random show as chosen by our $25 patrons. And we are doing a monthly commentary track. We've done one so far. It was about Batman and Robin. Had a lot of fun.
That's right.
Had a lot of fun doing that. So go check that out. Patreon.com/lasercomb. Twitter. Follow me. I am at Lasercomb. LAZORCOMB. And Cal, you are also on Twitter, yes?
Yes, NeoCal. Neo_Cal with a K.
All right. I think we're going to get out of here. So I've been one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
And I'm your other host, NeoCal.
And until next week, Beast Mode?
Oh, I forgot. Only one of them says maximize or terrorize during all of those issues. And it's when Nyx is trying to transform from her robot form to a bat.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
And we're like, oh, so they do say maximize. Anyway, beast mode. I mean, maximize.
Anyway, the art in this comic sucks. Bye-bye.
Bye.